Coming up in our audit, this time in our special interview series Outlook, we speak to legal minds from across Hong Kong society to see what the future holds for the one country, two systems principle. You're watching World Insight. I'm Tian Wei in Beijing. Today we will continue our special interview series Hong Kong Outlook with prominent figures from Hong Kong. Patriots governing Hong Kong. That concept is being considered by many to be key to achieving the one country, two systems principle in the region. With the latest development, what the future holds for the one country, two systems principle. Let's find out more. Maggie Chen Man-Ki, lawyer and NPC deputy from Hong Kong SAR. Raymond Tan, Hong Kong SAR NPC deputy, former Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs with the Hong Kong SAR government. Bernard Chan, convener and non-official members of the Executive Council with Hong Kong SAR, also NPC deputy from Hong Kong. Their views here. Maggie Chan, welcome to CGTN. What do you make as a lawyer of the realities in Hong Kong over the past year or so? The division and the movements on the streets and also even violence in public spaces. What do you make of it?
The turmoil and the unrest in Hong Kong since the Central in 2014 and even the extradition amendment bill, main underlying cause is the distortion of the extradition law amendment bill by the adverse and hostile force, both domestic and external. Secondly, and most important of all, there is a rising force of separatists. This is what concerns our motherland. There is always a well balance between the individual freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, peaceful assembly and peaceful gathering. According to the International Convention on Civil and Political, the freedom and the rights that I've just mentioned is not an absolute one. It must be subject to certain restrictions because Hong Kong adopts and practice common law. I have also to explain in details. There is a case law which was decided in 1999 in the Final Court of Appeal in Hong Kong. The case is called Kong Siu case. It was expressly stated that although the freedom of speech, freedom of expression is fundamental and very important in a society, but it's always subject to restriction, and public order is within the regime of the restriction. It is expressly stated in the case that the correct implementation of the one country, two system and national security, it's within the regime of protection.
So Maggie, what about now? Will situations get better?
The rule of law is so important to Hong Kong. Without the rule of law, we cannot have a fair election because in the past district council election, we were threatened by force, we were threatened by others, petrol bombs, and all kinds of intimidation. Not only the candidates were threatened by adverse and the hostile forces, the voters were frightened to vote for us. So in that case, if somebody advanced political means and targets without regard to any law, then there would be no fair justice and election. This is what we learned. We, China, has to protect itself by using law. We adhere to rule of law.
Hong Kong has come through a very unstable situation in the community because of the some radicals and the opposition have organized on-street demonstration and protests, and many of them actually have gone to violence and illegal acts. And that actually creates a huge concern in Hong Kong. And not only because it has broken the peace in Hong Kong, but also some of the protest requests is to go for independence of Hong Kong. And that is totally against one country, two system. And to many Hong Kong people, only one country, two system would serve the overall long-term interests of Hong Kong, the entire Hong Kong community.
Mr. Tam, of course, there's going to be Legislative Council election, and this is certainly a very sensitive, politically sensitive time inside Hong Kong, particularly given the earlier experiences of political division. So what would that mean when we have a mixture of uncertainties and now you have, in a few months' time, a very important election season in Hong Kong?
Well, I have been working for the Hong Kong government for 30 years, and my last 10 years in the Hong Kong SL government, I was responsible also the general elections in Hong Kong, including the Legislative Council election. I can tell you that there is never a good time and never a bad time to hold such a in Hong Kong. We would organize and conduct that public election in accordance with the basic law and in accordance with the provisions in our local electoral legislation. That is the duty of the Hong Kong government, to conduct such elections in a open, fair, and equitable manner. And that is the principle that I'm sure my successor would strictly adhere to. And of course, in Hong Kong, we are an international city. We are also part of our country as well. As one of the former CE put it, we are the super connected to the rest of the world. And therefore, there are all sorts of people in Hong Kong, all sorts of political forces operating in Hong Kong. Witness all kinds of political uncertainty, but we managed to weather the storm because we have full confidence on one country, two system. We have full confidence on central government. We have full confidence in the rule of law in Hong Kong. We still have full confidence that no matter what continue to happen or not happen in Hong Kong in terms of political landscape, in terms of uncertainties, but Hong Kong people, under the care of the central government, under the support and the constitutional support of the basic law, the one country, two system principle, we will continue to rise above all challenges and difficulties.
With the current situation of a challenging international environment for China as a whole, how would the Hong Kong issue likely to play it out? Is Hong Kong ready for all possibilities?
The social unrest that took place last year in Hong Kong is a mixture of a couple of things. First of all, I think partly because Hong Kong is a free capital, very capitalist city. So we definitely suffer from the consequences of globalizations, as well as these so-called winner-takes-all situations. So people in Hong Kong are frustrated that they feel that they've been marginalized. They feel that some of the advantages that they used to lead is no longer there. So I think they feel that they're under threat. Now with the issue rising of China and the U.S. continuously become an issue for Hong Kong, I think we are caught in the middle of all these things. And I'm sure with even COVID-19, clearly, China and we've done much better in containing the virus than the U.S.
Earlier, in order to deal with the discrepancies and also inequalities existing in Hong Kong, the SAR government has put forward several kinds of supportive initiatives to support the poor, relatively poor families and also unemployment issues. However, the economy as a result of COVID-19 is getting ever more challenged. So how do you see, Mr. Chen, as the convener of the Executive Council, those earlier measures could be implemented?
The aim of the Hong Kong government right now is about retaining jobs and also creating new jobs or advancing jobs. So raising the standard, raising the skill set. Now, of course, nobody knows how long COVID-19 will sustain. But since Hong Kong and the mainland and Taiwan and Macau, we have done so well in containing the virus. We could be leading the way of reopening back our society, reopening travels and business.
Mr. Chen, in Hong Kong, there's also likely to be another debate about the education. As you may know, there are different plans being proposed about what should be included in the liberal arts education, as they say. Some are related to the history of Hong Kong, and others are related to whether politics should be put into it. From your perspective, how to proceed from now?
I grew up in Hong Kong. I grew up under the colonial years, and we didn't learn much about our own history, history of Hong Kong, nor is the modern history of China. I think that it was a deliberate decision at the time. We were not being taught a lot. But what's surprising is, though, even after 23 years of Hong Kong return to China, that situation didn't improve that much either. So I think it's only understandable that we have to look back into the situation. How best we teach our next generation to understand better of the mainland, and I think partly because of the lack of that understanding of the mainland, that sometimes gives unnecessary these speculation. After all, Hong Kong is part of China, so I think we do need to have a revamp of the syllabus.
And my final question before we go, Mr. Chen, I remember the first interview with you. That was 2007, 10th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China. It was in Hong Kong. I remember very clearly it was a rainy day and later cleared up. Now, time flies. You and I have been having many conversations in between. I just wonder, as someone who has been very ardently supporting Hong Kong's future and also Hong Kong's relation with the motherland, what do you make personally of the realities now, and also personally where Hong Kong is going?
Well, you're absolutely right. I've been involved in the politics in Hong Kong for the last 23 years since Hong Kong returned to the motherland. There's never been a moment without challenges. Immediately after the 97 changeover, Hong Kong was faced with the Asian financial crisis. In 2003, we faced with SARS, and then we have financial crisis in 2008, and obviously now we have our own social unrest together with COVID-19. So you understand, in each of that situation, Hong Kong managed to. We did it not just because just the will of the Hong Kong people. We survived because we have the motherland behind us. Each time, government came in and gave Hong Kong that lifting hand. Of course, the challenge that we are facing today is much bigger. We have an external crisis we have to manage, the global economy, the trade war, and everything. But locally, we do have a problem. The inequality, to affordability, housing affordability. These are the same issues that many big cities, many residents of big cities are complaining. So we just have to deal with it. Again, I'm still remain confident because again, we're not alone. First, we are not alone, and we have the motherland behind us too, to resolve these issues together. I'm still very hopeful. But the coming years with COVID-19 certainly will definitely push the economy back for a few years. And let's just hope that the whole world can manage to find a vaccine soon and try to restore the economy back to where it was. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It takes a lot of work. But for now, I want to thank you, Mr. Chen, for your insights and also your analysis about Hong Kong. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
And that's a series of excerpts from my interviews with different members of the Hong Kong society from different walks of life. That's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of the team. Thanks for watching and bye for now.